Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Batman Caped Crusader Season 1, Episode 3. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So when we had that introduction between Selina and Bruce, it does seem like they have enough of a correspondence. Like there was something there where he was like, oh yeah, just have a tendency like things around you disappear. I was like, does he already know about her being Catwoman? But it seems like it's because Selina already has that reputation of being a klepto that, you know, that's so interesting because I'm like, I wonder, is that unique to this version, or has she always been like from like the higher crust of like Gotham society? Because it's like, oh, she's from a rich family, but her dad's in prison for tax fraud. I even love her trying to, it's like, yeah, you and me, Bruce, we're kind of exact same. It's like, you know, we're both like rich orphans. He's like, your dad's in jail for tax fraud. She's like, I mean, we're similar enough. But I do think this episode does a really great job of drawing very deep parallels between them. And it's like Bruce, who's so dead serious about everything, versus Catwoman, who's all about having the fun of it, and even the element of their pseudo caretakers, Greta, who reluctantly has to go along with everything Selina wants, and Alfred, who does love and care about Bruce, where Greta ups and bails and runs on Selina by the end. Alfred has stuck it out years and years and years. So I just think that's such a beautiful parallel of just kind of like how everyone responds to their tragedies and stuff like that. Because I'm sure that also bothers Bruce too, because it's like, right, like you got some issues, but like you don't have the reasons, or like Bruce does what he does because he's driven by like revenge, you know, and trying to get justice of sorts, being this vigilante, where it's like, well, you're doing what you're doing for fun. Like I said, and I think that's why it irks Bruce so much, especially with everything he's going through this episode, because he has to go to therapy, which we'll get to that later. But just like him and Selina, I mean, that's always one of my favorite aspects of like the Batman and Catwoman relationship, the very cat and mouse of it all, of just, she is a villain, but she's also borderline anti-hero a lot of times. But it's also, the fact is that it's like, even Alfred says it later on, I mean, she's a thief, sure, but she's not really like a villain. It's like, it's not that bad. I mean, she's robbing stores and wealthy families and stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, it's like I said, it's just filling her own pockets because she's got her own financial situation. But she wasn't paying her bills. She didn't care about paying her bills. She even just kept she paid off some of her debt, but Greta had to be like, yeah, but you still have other debts to pay. More specifically me, because Greta's like, you owe me 3 years of back pay, you know? So it's like, oh, let's have fun, Greta. We're hiding away in the part of the city that no one's going to notice. We're outlaws. She's like, I never signed up to be an outlaw, but here I am. You know, kind of didn't have much choice. So Greta kind of sucks doing what she did, but at the same time, you're like, nah, you know, go off, queen. You deserve, you know, you got yours, and you bounced and left Selina in the lurch. So it's kind of like, it's very befitting. I think it's so interesting, too, that Selina's outfit being what it is. Because I'm wondering to myself, I'm like, I'm sure maybe there are elements of like a classic Catwoman. I don't think it's taken in its, maybe there is some slight inspiration. Because in my head, I'm thinking of like the Eartha Kitt version from like the 1966 Adam West Batman. I feel like there's elements to it in that, but maybe I'm reading way too much into it. It's so interesting because like I'm so used to like the more modern take on that costume, where it's just kind of like a very like sleek black like stealth suit, you know. And so it's just interesting for it to be like a full blown dress and a cape. But it's also because she was inspired by Batman, which plays into the whole mythology of Gotham, where it's like, okay, do the freaks of Gotham inspire Batman, or does Batman inspire the freaks of Gotham? And it seems like, I mean, it's always been a double-edged sword with that, because there are people who come about because of Batman's existence, but he also exists because Gotham has always been Gotham, so. I also love the whole Bullock situation, too. The poor bastard getting scarred up across his face. And obviously, like, he keeps it the entire episode. I'm sure he's not going to have it going forward, but it's just kind of like this nice reminder of not only does Selina get the best of you, she got arrested and still managed to not go to jail because apparently, like, oh, they didn't find any evidence on her. I'm like, she must have stashed it or tossed it or whatever. Well, it could also be like Bruce took it off her and returned it before like the cops got their hands on her. So maybe that's why it's like, well, they technically might have found her in her suit. She was like, as she said, wrong place and wrong time, playing up the privilege of it all. Which even Barbara called out, because it's like, whoa, Harvey, you're gonna let her go? You jumped down the throat of all my clients, but you're gonna let her go because she's from rich and powerful? He's like, what? You really think I'm that slimy? He's like, well, to be told, I would be, but she's flat broke. Because at first when they were looking at each other, and I was like, is he doing, like, what, like, her dad might be pulling favors? I've never known her, because I think sometimes I confuse her dad with Felicia Hardy, Black Cat's dad, because I know, like, don't they come from a wealthy family, too? I know that's Spider-Man, but you get the point I'm trying to make. Like, I don't know, I think sometimes I conflate Selena stuff with Felicia stuff. It's more vice versa, but either way. Because I was like, I've never known her dad to be a significant character. It's kind of interesting because, like, even just based on Gotham, we got to know her mom, but I don't think we ever got to know her dad in Gotham. Like, a lot of who she was inspired by her mom, and I don't know if that plays any role in her character in the comics in general or even in this series, because mom never got brought up in conversations, because mom could have been dead. Like, all she had was her dad, but she doesn't seem too broke about it. She's really spoiled rich kid, and which is so interesting because I've never known that side of Selena. Yes, Selena's always been eccentric, thief of like, oh, I'm a take, but I've never known her to be the spoiled rich kid, and maybe that's just this take, or maybe there have been versions of her that have been that, because I don't even remember, like, because obviously, like, the Zoe Kravitz version from The Batman, it's not like that at all. Because I feel like the Zoe Kravitz version is probably closer to what she is in the comics, maybe. Because I feel like she probably comes from, like, well, no, because I was about to say, like, her dad's situation, and that's completely unique to that. Because I don't think she's related to Falcone. Different circumstances. I'm not about to go down that massive tangent, but the reason I'm sorry, I kind of went on my massive diatribe about the whole thing. But it's just. What set me on this path was wondering, why did Harvey kind of let her go? Was it just like because of some political favor it would earn him later on, like from a rich society? But would the rich society even care about him letting Selena go? I don't know. Maybe he gets something on the back end from that. I have no idea. I was also wondering, like, if there was something between them. I only say that because of the Telltale Batman games, because spoilers, but I mean, it's kind of an early thing, but Selena and Harvey are dating at the beginning of that I think, yeah, at the beginning of that story, they're dating. So I was curious if that was kind of a hint of something like that in this, but no, it turned out not to be the case. So, like I said, I'm just trying to understand, like, what would other aspect of Harvey's, I mean, I guess, like, he needs hardened criminals. Going after some rich person being a jewel thief isn't worthy enough to be, building his campaign and stuff on, I guess, is what that comes down to. Because that's not showcasing his heaviness on crime, taking a dent out, putting a dent into crime type of situation. I don't think it doesn't send that message, or doesn't represent it as, it's not as big and as thrilling taking down some rich person who decided to play thief. I should also talk about the fact is, I kept thinking, like, oh, like, Selena's voice sounds familiar. Freaking Christina Ricci. I was like, that's super dope. It's like, to be fair, she has a great voice for Selena. And it's like, it's funny because I, like, had talked about it, like, a while back. I was like, oh, I think she'd make a good live action Poison Ivy, but I was also basing that purely on, like, my thought of that was purely brought about because of her character from Yellow Jackets, Misty's, but like, just how psychotic that character can be. So I was like, oh, she could play the psychotic if she needs to, but also, like, elements of her character from the show Wednesday, I felt like, oh, like, definitely gave Pamela Isley like, elements. So I was like, combine those two characters and you kind of got Poison Ivy in my head. So it's just funny. I think she's voiced DC characters before. I think I'd looked that up at the time. But yeah, just kind of befitting. Like I said, I think she has a very nice, sultry voice. Very befitting of a Selena Kyle / Catwoman. So I was like, oh, that's pretty dope. I was curious whether or not Bruce was going to catch any feels by the end of this, and it doesn't seem like he did. It is like he does view Catwoman more as a nuisance, but it's funny because his whole love life comes up in question, which once again, I'll get to the Quinzel side of things soon enough, but it made me wonder if that was going to be a hint of that, but it didn't seem like didn't move the needle or not. Like I said, it does seem like he's still early enough in his path for vengeance that nothing else does matter. Like everything is just flimsy and just like, no, that's all I have to my life. Like all I have is the mask I wear as Bruce Wayne. Other than that, it's like, that's a facade. I don't need love. I don't need anything else. I don't need anyone in my life, really. I just need justice. I need revenge. So because he's early enough here, like maybe Selina hasn't like cracked that shell that is him. I mean, I think that usually takes a while for like that to kind of really sink in. But the fact is that he was so dogged in his pursuit of her. But even Alfred's like, why do you care so much? And it's like, maybe something there was some kind of thrill to the cat and mouse of it all, whether he'd admit it or not, or maybe he's not ready to admit it to himself. But maybe it's also just because her getting all this attention is taking away from like his attention towards bigger threats. So it's like, right, let's get rid of this annoyance. But maybe it's also because on some level he couldn't get her out of his head. You know, because he already probably found Selina interesting, and now you add into this aspect of she was kind of inspired by you, so it's like, well, I kind of created this monster, so I need to nip this in the bud before I inspire any more of Gotham's ne'er-do-wells, in a sense. So yeah, you had that angle to it, and the other side of the episode involves Dr. Quinzel. I love that development of he's getting therapy, which is like Bruce Wayne in therapy. Never thought I'd see it. Granted, it wasn't his choice. It was court appointed after he laid Home Dude out, which I was like, hey, yo. Understandable. Home Dude was running his mouth being like, hey, lady, like, who are you going to like go into crime alley with pearls around your neck? Which almost feels like, I don't know if that was like written specifically like that because like people have had that comment on the whole Wayne murders like in general, but also like blaming the victim. It's like, yeah, you're in a very poor neighborhood and you're in literal crime alley and you're wearing something like that. But obviously Bruce didn't appreciate that and laid Home Dude out, and now he has to go to court appointed therapy. And I love he's trying to play it off like, oh no, like I don't need this, I'm fine. But she's like, and I love Dr. Quinzel just kind of like being like, okay, cool, no, we're doing this, kind of like shutting down any attempt to him try and pull away from this. I even love he tried to steal his file from her office, and she's like left a little sticky note being like, oh no, like nice try, but I'll see you next week, Mr. Wayne. So I was like, I love that. She's actually really sly, because it's not too often you get to see Harley as Dr. Quinzel. Once again, I know she started in the animated series, but I only remember her as Harley. I don't remember her as Dr. Quinzel at all in the animated series. But obviously, we've taken dabbles of it in different things. Like, you get a little taste of it in the Harley Quinn cartoon, and there's obviously the Joker movie, Joker Folie à Deux is going to go a different route with Harley in a sense, but it's not that often. I feel like a lot of adaptations that I can think of that you meet like Harley Quinzel, because usually it's like, well, the most interesting thing is her already being Harley. So there are images of her as Harley, so I'm curious what's going to spur that on, because I have not heard if there's a Joker. So her route as Harley Quinn might be similar to, it's not going to be the exact, but if you're familiar with Telltale's Batman, as I was referencing before, Harley in that is not your typical Harley, so I'm wondering they're kind of going down that route. Like I said, there might be a Joker in this, but like Joker usually is the reason why she becomes Harley Quinn, so makes you wonder, why did she become Harley Quinn in this one? Maybe he's an influence, we just don't get to see it. I'm curious. But also, like I said, like she is really sharp, because she's able to kind of pick up the fact that she's like, I don't like this whole like thing that you do. It's like you almost go above and beyond to pretend to be such a cliche. Like, what about your parents' murder? He's like, oh no, it doesn't affect me at all. That was so long ago. And just the entire session, you can't help but laugh because you're like, oh, that's so funny. Because he's like, oh, it doesn't affect me. It's like, it's your motivation. It is the cornerstone. It's the anchor to everything that you do. You know, it's like, oh, you're like, oh, it doesn't affect me. It happened so long ago. It's like, it's that trauma is what is like, it's forever stuck with you, Bruce. So, because she was like, he was like, oh yeah, because she was like, you could end up going into, you know, do you ever react violently or something like that, where you're like, oh, hilarious, considering yes, he dresses up like a bat and beats the ever living shit out of criminals. So it's kind of funny in that regard. It just like you can't help but laugh of like, oh, just like that Harley has no idea, but like how close she's hitting the mark in some capacities and stuff like that. But she could also see through Bruce's bullshit, you know? She can tell like it does bother him once again that everything he does is such a. She's like, is it just what about a second date? Is everything just like some like flimsy relationship? He's like, whoa, is this therapy or is this church? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. He's like, yeah, someone in my position, you know, living a life like this. She's like, right, being wealthy and stuff like that. She's like, yeah. She's like, I know you want me to believe like that's all there is to you, but she's like, I know there is more. Like, she's like, right, your court appointed sessions. I couldn't get that out. It's over, but I think we should keep going. And Bruce is like, nah, I'm good. Can you go ahead and sign my papers? You know, so, and even Alfred was thinking, oh, it's a good idea, but it's like, there ain't no broaching that to Bruce. Bruce is like, no, he's very, very stubborn in that, and Alfred doesn't know what to do, because I'm sure Alfred, especially this episode, probably, I think, hammers home the fact is how Alfred feels more of a enabler to everything that Bruce does, because we get to see the young Bruce bust in his room in the middle of the night being like, they're all gonna pay and you're gonna help me. I was like, yo, that is creepy as shit. That's some Omen level shit of like, yo, like, what the fuck is up with this kid busting into my room talking about they're gonna pay? Who's gonna pay? You know? That, like, I mean, I'm sure it varies from version to version when, like, obviously as a child is going to influence him heavily, but to the point of having that already in his mind, vengeance and being vigilante and stuff, like, he probably didn't know like vigilante, but he knew like, I have the money and resources, I'm gonna make them pay. Makes you wonder, did he ever get Joe Chill in this continuity or not? I thought it was interesting because the cop had asked him like, did you ever see the guy's face? And he was like, no, but in his dream he did. So either that was him filling in the gap in his mind, or he did see the guy's face, but he was too scared to admit it, or he didn't initially remember the guy's face, but as time went on, because it haunted him more and more, the guy's face became burned into his memory. So it's hard to say what that nightmare he had in the episode could have meant. It could have meant a multitude of things. So I forgot to talk about it. Jamie Chung voices Dr. Quinzel in this. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I didn't find that out till like super recently. I forgot. Oh yeah, because I think I caught like a clip of an interview where Jamie Chung was talking about, oh yeah, like kind of like how dope it is to be like not dope. I don't want to put words in her mouth. She was saying like the responsibility she feels for being like the first Asian woman to play Harley Quinn. Dr. Quinzel, but yes, you know, Harley Quinn in general. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I think that's what it was. Like I said, I only caught like bits of it, but I think it was like it was an interview or something. She had said that, and then also like Prime Video released a picture. I can't remember who it was, but I know it's Hamish Linklater and it's her. I forgot it was someone else. You can find it on YouTube. It's one of their community posts. But I forgot who the third person was, but it was like in correlation to this. I was like, oh, that's dope. So it does make me wonder, is she going to be a big part of this? Not once again, we haven't seen her as Harley Quinn, which she had, like, what she looks like as Harley is known. So I'm assuming she is going to pop up later. That was my thing of like how many villains will make reappearances later in the season, and once again, how much of that will be in the version of like Arkham, how many are just in regular prison, how many are in Blackgate, how many are in Arkham, stuff like that. I love that Bruce to catch Selena, because like evidence was always not admissible. Like they never had anything on her, so he got someone from the Gazette to take photos. I also appreciate the whole, really quickly, Selena's whole thing of bringing strays home. And I was like, I said that out loud at one point, but I was like, well, that last cat wasn't a stray. That was a cat she stole from someone's house. But it feels very befitting because it's like, well, she tried to bring home a stray of her own, that being Batman. But like, it's almost like there's a parallel of like that last cat she was trying to get wasn't a stray for her to get. Even though Bruce is kind of a stray, he's still kind of in a similar thing of like, you're trying to steal me from my mission, and like that's kind of my home right now is my mission, and you're kind of distracting me from it. Once again, I'm probably reading way too much into it, but I mean, I think the stray cat parallel is still very, very in line with Bruce. But either way, the photographer not only caught Selena stealing, he also caught Bruce beating the crap out of all those cops. To be fair, it was Bullock and Flash, who are not great people to begin with, but it was also like, yeah, they weren't just going to like shoot. They shot Selena in the leg, and then they were going to like put her down permanently. So, and I even love the guy being like, yo, if you want me to, I could kind of leave out those photos, but Bruce is like, I don't care, because he's like, he doesn't care what his reputation as Batman is, and I think that's so interesting because it fits the narrative of, I don't care about it. It's not quite there, but I think you can get some inklings of some men just want to watch the world burn, and Bruce is kind of in that mode right now. It's like, I will crush any criminal. I don't care if the police think I'm a bad guy, if it ends up destroying my reputation. Like, it's hard to say, like, we don't know what the public sentiment is when it comes to Batman. Once again, he's still kind of rumored. There are some newspaper photos and stuff like that, sure, but I mean, that weren't real photos. I think maybe there were photos, but it seemed like they were more like drawings of people's interpretations of him, because he looked like a monster, which I'm sure for a lot of people he does view like that, fear and intimidation wise and stuff, But I think it's just so interesting that, once again, he's not thinking about what Batman can represent. Batman can be a symbol in some regards. Once again, depending on how you view Batman. But, it's like for him, it's like, I can be a symbol of fear, for this city of all its criminals. And he just wants people to know. He's like, no, let them see that, because he's like, every corrupt cop will know you step on, like, I'm not afraid of taking you down. But also, it's like, let every criminal know I'm ready to bust everyone in their face. Like, you cross me, you do bad. Criminal cop, if you're a dirty cop, I will put you down. You're a criminal, I will put you down. Not put you down, but still. Like, so I just think that's such an interesting perspective for him to have. Like I said, he doesn't care. His mission is his mission, and nothing else matters to him. So that's kind of an interesting place for Bruce to be at. Like I said, this is still early enough in his career for him to have that sentiment, to have that perspective on it. So, because we don't know exactly how long he's been Batman, but like I said, it's still to the point that it was still being like, oh, the bat dude dressed in a bat, there's no way that's real. So it's still to the point that there's whispers and murmurs about it, but now it's becoming more and more clearer to the city of Gotham as a whole, the bat is real. So either way, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.